If you were to ask me, Pastor, why did God choose a man like Saul, son of Kish, to be the first king of Israel? I'd have to say, I don't fully understand it. But I do know this, that God is wise and he has a better perspective of things. And if I had any speculation at all, I would say that it probably had something to do with what he knew the people would accept. And a man who is the tallest man in Israel would stand out as, if you want to use the expression, a natural born leader. But Saul was not that. He was not a natural born leader. He was a man who had a lot of flaws, a lot of imperfections. But always love a good story. And I love it when God just orchestrates things and they just work out. And this story begins with Saul being sent out by his father to find some lost donkeys. And he had a servant with him, and they began to travel, wanted to know where these donkeys were, and they kept getting further and further away from the house. And they were about 3 days away, and it finally occurred to Saul, this is, if we don't start heading back, my father's going to be sending out people to look for us. And then it came to him, he said, I believe that there is a seer that lives somewhere near here. Now, back in those days, it says that a prophet was called a seer. And so, sure enough, they went off looking for the seer. Well, in the meantime, God comes to the seer, a man by the name of Samuel, another great story, and says to Samuel, he said, the next king of Israel is coming to visit with you. You see how God works? I just love that. And yes, I have had those things happen in my life just like that. God just worked this out. If you really want to know some good stories, read my book. And I'm not meaning to do a commercial here, but I am. It's called Dreams and Visions and Stories of Faith. You can find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, Pastor Jack King. But I tell some stories just like this, how God orchestrated some things that I couldn't have done it if I'd have wanted to. And that's the way this worked out. God said to Samuel, says, the king of Israel is coming to see you, and he thinks he's looking for donkeys. And so the king, or the future king, Saul, he finally arrived. And the first thing that Samuel said to Saul says, those donkeys you've been looking for, they've been found. And he said, well, how did Samuel know about the donkeys? Well, God told him, because that's what God does. And through a process of exchanges, God begins to reveal to Saul through Samuel that he had a work for him. And there was nobody in Israel that was more surprised about that news than Saul himself. But you see, God has a plan. You just take that with you today. God has a plan, and he'll work his plan in his time. It's Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.